let's continue this conversation with one of the Royal King's subjects, New York Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin. I don't know if you're knighted yet, Congressman, but I'm. It must give you such homage. First thing that's probably on everyone's mind: do you have a copy of the poster yet?
Unfortunately, I haven't received a copy of the poster. Must have got lost in the mail. I don't know how many were printed. And I would say to add one other point to what you were just talking about is, our numbers, especially in downstate New York, weren't just the worst numbers in the country. We actually had the worst numbers on the planet. I mean, we got hit so hard downstate New York, and the president to myself and others, the local elected officials, we all approach this with the mentality that regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat, conservative, liberal, no matter what level of office you're in, let's all work together. And I got to say, the federal government was fantastic through this process in getting approvals on things and resources. We saw the comfort come in, the Javits get set up, field hospitals get set up, thousands of ventilators, public lab testing, private lab testing, semi-automated testing, boom, boom, boom. These approvals were coming in. And it was really unfortunate when the governor, who at the beginning was, I think, communicating to the state and really to many others in the country pretty well with some important points, it started to turn into a show, the daily press briefing, and things started to turn. And you mentioned a nursing home policy as well.
Do you think, in TV world, there's a phrase called jump the shark. Do you think that the governor jumped the shark? I mean, I don't mean to, the poster deserves mocking, but it's a very serious subject, as you point out, between the nursing homes and the number of deaths. I hate to make light of it, but my goodness, I mean, the idea that you put a poster out with yourself, your kids, and then try to mock the president at the same time after you've mocked him, I just, I really think this is like the political equivalent of jumping the shark.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like a moment. I know that President Bush still hears about when he gave that speech from the aircraft carrier with the sign behind him that said "Mission Accomplished." At the start of this pandemic, some of these other states in the country and in the region, by the way, some of these were other elected officials were Democrats. They were concerned about travel from the New York area to their states, and they wanted to take action. The governor's position was that that would be an act of war against New York. And then New York's numbers come down. You see some of the numbers increasing in some of these other states. And now the governor is putting travel restrictions on most of the rest of the country now. But this is where it could come back and bite New Yorkers. What happens as those other states start controlling their numbers? And let's say, God forbid, New York's numbers start going up. We're all in this together. I understand there's high stakes. There's a presidential election going on. There is a lot at stake this November. But we are best served as Americans, as New Yorkers, when our elected officials are working together, put aside, the fancy artwork, the cute attacks or the highly hyper partisan attacks. Just focus on getting the job done. That's all I think New Yorkers really want right now.
I don't mean to get hung up on this poster, but you mentioned the comfort. And I remember what a big deal it was for the comfort to get there, right? First, people like Rachel Maddow doubted it could ever happen. Then it came in. And these men and women in the military came to New York to help out. I couldn't help but notice that of all the things he included in the poster, he left out the comfort and all of those folks from the military who came to help New Yorkers. Do you think that's an oversight or just stupidity?
Yeah, listen, if you wanted to instill pride and positive memories of what maybe there were some aspects of what we just went through that brings back the most positive emotions or painful but important to remember memories, it's going to be images like the comfort. I want to see our great men and women, our frontline workers, our truck drivers, our farmers, our law enforcement workers, of course, all of our healthcare workers. We should be celebrating them. We should be honoring all the people who lost their lives. And I don't think that this should be the image that gets handed down from one generation to the next of the memory from COVID.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that you could have done this in a much different way and make people felt part of the problem instead of trying to pick winners and losers, which he did. Speaking of winners and losers, another loser right now is Mayor Bill de Blasio. I know you called on him to resign. I'm not sure that he's going to take your advice on this, but doesn't he deserve a lot of the blame as well?
Yeah, I think Mayor de Blasio should be removed. I also don't believe that he should resign. I don't believe New York City is going to be able to survive the remainder of his term. There is, and I call it a tale of two cities. There's two directions the city can go. It's the direction we're seeing right now, which is a path of lawlessness. You don't have the back of your NYPD. You're seeing a rise in poverty, or you could go in this other path, which is all about peace and prosperity, safety and security, law and order. I think that Mayor de Blasio owns so much of what's been going wrong these last few months on the law and order side, but it also goes back to the beginning of the timeline and the rhetoric and the policies at the start of this outbreak contributing to the spread.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's amazing. I know the people of Long Island are probably happy to have someone like you out there leading, because it seems like between the governor and the mayor that it's been, an absolute disaster. So thank you for coming back on. Thanks for your service to New York and trying to keep people focused on what we really need to be focused on during this COVID outbreak.
You got it. Thank you, Sean.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel, now in 65 million homes. Get Newsmax TV on all the major cable systems, or go to newsmaxtv.com and click on the Find Newsmax tab to locate us. Remember, Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.